Hi, welcome to Virtual CB1A, and for today's video discussion, we are going to continue our discussion on mathematics of investments, and we are already in 1.6, determining the loan duration and interest rates. So start muna tayo dun sa syempre pinakasimple, the simple rate. So take note that for determining the loan duration, we are talking about time. Okay? Mamaya tayo dito sa kabilang part. So let us consider the following two problems that arise in connection with the notion of interest and that have a practical meaning. So dun muna tayo sa problem number 1. If you were given daw the principal, the sum of the accumulated amount S, and I, which is our interest rates, so known sila, given sila, and you have to determine the term n, the problem must be solved simply by the formula n is equal to s minus p over p times I. This was obtained from formula 1.1 daw. Wag na natin balikan kung nasa ang page siya. Papakita ko na lang dito sa isang side. So it is important that you always know where your formula came from. Hindi pwedeng basta-basta nyo na lang siya ginagamit. Katulad itong formula na to, hindi pwedeng na basta-basta nyo na lang silang tatanggapin. So we have to know where it was derived. So, balikan natin yung mga ideas natin na diniscuss before. So, for S, this is from P plus the total interest I. So, S is equal to P plus I siya. Now, ano ang value ni I? Paano natin siya nako-compute? So, I is equal to the principal multiplied by the interest rate I multiplied by the term N. Noon, ang ginagamit natin ay PRT. Lagi ko siyang sinisingit kasi sa ibang books, PRT yung gamit. But you know that in this reference material that we use, P is principal, the interest rate, R is now I, and the time T is now N. Term N. So, substitute natin sila. We have S is equal to P plus P times I times N. So, derive natin ito. How? So, we are going to make use of our knowledge in algebra, addition property of equality, at saka multiplication property of equality lang to. Kailangan natin mai-isolate si N. So, kailangan natin matanggal si P at si PI dun sa right side. Using addition property of equality, we have S minus P is equal to P times I times N na lang. So, tinanggal na natin si P on the left side by subtracting P from both sides. Next, we have to get rid of P and I. How are we supposed to do that? So, we're going to employ multiplication property of equality by multiplying both sides by PI. 1 over PI. Yan. So, we know that P times I over P times I is equal to 1 na lang, right? So, we will end up with S minus P over PI is equal to N. Or, yung formula natin dito, N is equal to S minus P over P times I. Okay? So, I hope that it's clear. Let's go to the next part. Yan. Meron tayong problem number 2 dito. Paano kung ang given ay si P, si S, at si N? Ang hahanapin naman natin ay yung interest rate na I. So, same approach pa rin naman tayo. Wait lang ng konti kasi naghahang na naman yung computer ko. I always apologize, so please be patient. Okay, punta tayo dito sa problem number 2. Ang hahanapin naman natin ay si I. Actually, parehas lang din tanong kanina. Ayaw niya makisama. Okay, so I transferred it to our whiteboard. Pakita ulit natin kung paano siya dinerive. So, S is equal to P plus I, wherein I is equal to P times I times N. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do next is to substitute P times I times N to our I. We have S is equal to P plus P times I times N. Next, isolate naman natin this time ICI. So we have S minus P is equal to PIN or P times I times N. And using multiplication property of equality, we are going to multiply both sides by yung hindi natin kailangan. So, P and N. Ang kailangan lang matira on the right side is I. So, we have 1 over Pn. 1 over Pn. And of course, P over P is 1. N over N is 1. So, matitira na lang ay C, I. We have S minus P over Pn is equal to I, or I is equal to S minus P over Pn. Okay? Yan. Masaya na kasi yung susunod, may mga values na tayo na isosolve. So, nakalagay dito, the annual rate of simple interest equals 12.5. This is a typo error. This should be 12.5, not 12.5. 12.5%. In how many years will the original sum double? Okay. So, copy natin siya dito. Paano natin siya isosolve? Okay, so I transferred our problem to this whiteboard para mas madali natin siyang tingnan. And then I will just edit this out. It should be 12.5. Yan. So from here, ang mga elements lang natin of interest or ang mga kailangan lang natin gamitin ay CI, which is 12.5%, 0.125, at saka C term. So, N. So, wala tayong idea kung ano exactly yung S at yung P. Hindi natin sila alam. And we don't need them in order for us to get the value of N. Hindi natin kailangan ng amount talaga dito for S and P. Okay lang kahit wala sila. So, paano natin sila isa-solve? So, we have the idea that S is equal to P plus I, right? Ulit-ulit tayo dito. So, S is equal to P plus P times I times N, right? So, si S, yung total accumulated na amount daw niya, ang target natin ay madoble si principal. So, dapat at the end of the term, 2P na siya. Or kung hindi man siya 2P, it should be greater than or equal to 2P. Okay? So, at the end of a certain term, hindi man siya exactly twice, at least, mas mataas siya dun sa twice. So, we are going to substitute 2P for S. We have here 2P is equal to P plus PIN. And we know that there is a common term between the first term P and the second term PIN. So, lipat natin sila or factor out natin sila. So, P divided by P is 1 and P times I times N divided by P, may iwan si IN. So, plus IN. Ngayon, may eliminate na natin si P. Kasi nga, di ba hindi natin siya kailangan? How? By multiplying both sides by 1 over P or dividing both sides by P. So, tanggal na sila. Ayan. Sabi ko nga, ang kailangan lang natin gamitin ay si I at saka si N. Yung dalawang letters lang na yan, yung gagamitin natin in defining the terms or the duration of the loan term or investment term. We have here 2 is equal to I or 1 plus IN. Sabi ko nga, greater than or equal, pwede rin. So, dito pa lang palitan ko na siya para hindi kayo nako-confuse in the end. Ayan. So, greater than or equal. Dito ko na lang siya sa pangatlong outline papalitan kasi sinubstitute na natin yung 2p. So, we have here 2 minus 1. So, saan galing yon? So, addition property of equality, we have to get rid of 1. We only need n on one side. So, we will be left with in. So, meron tayong 1 is greater than or equal to in. Substitute na natin si I. Ano ang ating I? Ang ating I ay 12.5% or 0.12.5. So, meron tayong 1 is greater than or equal to 0.125 n. Paano natin makukuha yung term n? So, divide both sides by 0.125, 0.125. Pag nakakuha kayo ng calculator, ayan. Naghahang na naman siya. Ayan. Ako na lang kayo ng calculator, hindi ko na papakita. Pero, pag dinivide nyo si 1 by 0.125, you will end up with 8. 8 is greater than or equal to n. So, ibig sabihin, pag nag 8 years daw, dodoble na yung laman ng account mo from your principal. At pagka lumampas siya ng 8 years, syempre, mas malaki dun sa double nung principal mo. Okay? So, dito kasi sa ating reference material, instant yung solution. So, I want you to don't solely rely on what you see on the book. Dapat kabisado nyo yung bawat outline no formula. Okay? Okay. So, compound rate. Paano naman kung hahanapin natin ay term n ng compound? Ayan. So, sana natatandaan nyo pa yung formula natin from before. Yung meron tayong, singit lang ako dito ng konti. Meron tayong the total sum is equal to the principal times 1 plus I raised to the power of n. Okay? So, dito, meron tayong given formula. This is from equation number 1.3. Nasagutan na rin natin to before eh. Familiar na kayo sa ln, di ba? Prepare ko lang yung ating scientific calculator kasi gusto ko ipakita kung paano siya kino-compute. So, here we have n, the duration n is equal to ln s over p over ln 1 plus I. Na-discuss ko rin before yung sa logarithmic, right? So, I hope if you are getting any difficulty understanding this part, pwede nyo yung balikan. So, if the nominal rate J with interest calculations M times a year is used, then analogously, we will obtain from the equation 1.4, ito fresh pa to, kakagawa lang natin, N is equal to ln S over P over ln 1 plus J over M raised to M. Okay, so, oh my God. Lalag na naman siya. Ayan. Paano kung ang nawawala ay si interest rate I? So, solving the equations 1.3 in accordance with I, we will obtain I is equal to S over P raised to the power of 1 over N minus 1. Tapos, for nominal rate, meron tayong M times a year, yung mga quarterly, semi-annually, monthly. Yan. We will obtain from the equation 1.3, J is equal to M times S over P raised to the power of 1 over M times N minus 1. Okay? Parang walang example yata ditong ginamit. Parang wala eh. Wala. Okay. So I'll try to give you an example later on how to derive I and N. But since may time pa tayo, idiretso na muna natin siya sa 1.7 para hindi nagugulo yung sinusundan natin na reference material. I think banda-banda dyan meron ding ibibigay na problem eh. So discounting at simple rates. Let us consider the following problem. For the sum S that must be paid after the time N, the original sum P must be determined. In this case, it is said that the sum S is discounted. The term discounting in the broad sense means determining the value of the money amount at the given time point under the condition that it will equal the value S in the future. Such calculation is called the reduction of cost parameter to the given time point. So the value P, principal, that was found by the discounting of the sum S, accumulated amount, is called the present or reduced value S. It is one of the most important notions at modeling and analysis of financial transactions since it is exactly with discounting at the time factor is considered. When solving the problem, this is the formula that we are going to use. Ito ay extension lang ng mga ginagawa natin earlier. So, sa simple muna tayo. Okay, we will have P is equal to S times 1 over 1 plus N times I. This formula is called the formula of mathematical discounting, apart from the bank discounting or accounting, which is not considered here. So the value 1 over 1 plus Ni, medyo familiar siya, di ba? Ito yung factored out natin si P. Is called the present value factor, and the difference S minus P, the discount of the sum S. So the notion of discounting will be considered in detail in further sections. So we're just introducing the formulas at the moment. So discounting at a compound interest rate. So this is the formula that we are going to use. Please take note of it. We are going to introduce another variable, which is V. So let us find the original sum P according to the known total amount S. Meron kang final value, pero wala kang principal. So it is obvious that P is equal to S over 1 plus IN. Saan to galing? Kakasulat ko lang. Ayan. So, all you have to do is to divide both sides by 1 plus I raised to the power of N. 1 plus I raised to the power of N. You will end up with P is equal to S over 1 plus I raised to the power of N. Ito siya. Which is equal to S times V raised to the power of N. Ano si V? Yun yung reciprocal ng 1 plus I. Or, equal siya sa 1 over 1 plus I raised to the power of N. Okay? Okay. So, it is the present value factor or the factor of discounting. Next, meron na naman tayong isa pang i-introduce. We have W. If the interest is calculated M times a year with the use of the nominal rate J, then P is equal to S over 1 plus J over M raised to the power of M times N. Again, we already introduced this formula. Ano naman si W? Ito naman siya, si 1 plus J over M raised to the power of M times N. So in the financial and economic literature, the present value P is often contracted as PV or the present value. So it is obvious that the mathematical solution to this problem is elementary, but the problem itself has a deep financial and economic meaning. As it was mentioned above, the present value of the future money amounts is determined by the means of discounting. So the payment of the S amount after n years is equivalent to the sum P paid at the present time point. Herewith, the question of choosing the interest rate at which discounting is made is of a high importance, and the choice of this rate is based on the analysis of the financial market state, and the accuracy of evaluating the present value or the economic amounts depends on the right choice of the rate. So the difference S minus P is called the discount of the sum S. Let us indicate this value by the symbol D. So S minus P is equal to D. It follows the formula 1.13 and 1.14 that D is equal to S times 1 minus V raised to the power of N if the interest is calculated once a year. And then, kung nagko-compound siya multiple times a year, we are going to make use of W. Ito yung may J at M. So, marami tayong terms. Pwede siyang quarterly, semi-annually, monthly, yan. If the interest is calculated M times a year. Let's continue. So let us illustrate that the accumulated sum for a certain interim point is t greater than 0 but less than n. Pag magbabasa kayo ng inequality na ganito, lagi kayo magsisimula sa gitna ha. So that is t greater than 0 but less than n. Hindi siya 0 less than t less than n. No, that is wrong. It should be t is greater than 0 but less than n. Equals the present value of the payment at the same time point. So let S over T be the accumulated sum at the point T and P over T be the present value of the payment at the same moment. Then it is obvious that nung oras na. Yun. Okay. Next, we are going to have the formula P over T, P sub T, rather, P sub T is equal to S over 1 plus I raised to the power of N minus T, which is also equal to S. Alam natin that when we are compounding, S is equal to P times 1 plus I raised to the power of N, right? So since we have a common factor here, so it will be reduced to P times 1 plus I raised to the power of T. Ano lang to? Loss of exponents. So, N minus T. Diba? So, N minus T. You will end up with N minus N plus T. So, meron ka ng 0 plus T. Positive na yung exponent T mo. Dito na siya sa taas, mapupunta. So, P times 1 plus I raised to the power of T is equal to S over T. Okay? Ayan. So, cut ko muna dito. Yung mga examples natin, it will be presented on later chapters pa. We just introduced the formula that will be useful in the following chapters. Dun sa 1.7. Sa 1.6, cite tayo ng isang example and then nag-introduce tayo ng iba pang mga formula. So, please take note of those formulas. Okay?